When it comes to bike riders with fitting names, there's Ben Swift, there's Tony Galopin, and there's Andre Greipel. The big German likes a grumble. In the past, he's had a go at his former teammate Mark Cavendish, and he's had a go at his current teammates at Omega Pharma Lotto. But yesterday, he had a very successful go at winning stage 10 of the Tour de France.
It's a showdown between Cavendish and Greipel. Cavendish on the left of your screen, Greipel on the right. Andre Greipel wins.
Yep, the sweetest of successes for Greipel, winning on the Tour de France and against Mark Cavendish. Afterwards, the Manxman was magnanimous. You can bet he'll have but one thought on his mind today: revenge in stage 11. It is one of the few potential sprint finishes left in this year's Tour and a vital part of the green jersey race. So, can the sprinters keep the breakaway men in check today? And if they do, can this man restore normal service on the line? Find out in stage 11.
Great day for you, as far as it seems, in terms of the green jersey, and you mentioned it on Twitter as well. Tell us about your dreams for that.
Yeah, we'll keep plugging away, you know. It's kind of hard, you know. They got a two-pronged attack. They got Gilbert going for the green, Greipel just going for stages. He's not going for intermediate, so you know, it makes it difficult for us. But you know, we've got a team that's really dedicated, they're going really, really well, and we're excited.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. Good luck today.
How do you feel about your chances for today?
I hope they're good. Yeah, like you say, I think the legs are good for sprinting, but I just didn't quite have the legs on the climbs at the end yesterday, and yeah, missed opportunity.
But did you, when it started getting tough, did you sit up on purpose in order to be able to conserve for today? And then what is a little bit of the strategy and tactics for today?
No, I tried to hang on, but it just wasn't happening. Yeah, today's a bit more straightforward. It's much flatter. Pretty much a guaranteed sprint, so you know we know what to do, and you know we've already done it once in this race, and just try to do everything right and win another stage.
L'último día para ganar punto importante para el Molleverte, ¿no?
Bueno, el último día quizás es para otros como Cavendish, ¿no? Porque van a tener llegadas pues mucho más difíciles, pero bueno, para mí tengo otros días que puedo sacar puntos en sprints intermedios, incluso en llegadas como la de Gapa.
Por esto, porque siempre se habla el Molleverte, el mayor de los sprinters, pero este año se puede ganar sobre la etapa de montaña a los sprints intermediarios, ¿no?
Sí, este año es bastante diferente porque los sprints intermedios pues hay muchísimos puntos, tantos como en la meta algunos días, o sea que va a ser muy importante estar ahí los días de montaña.
Ahora el Molleverte es una cosa entre tú, Philippe y Marc.
Sí, yo creo que ahora mismo pues la verdad el maillot verde está entre nosotros tres y a ver al final quién es el más fuerte para ganarlo.
Thor Hushovd, an incredible Tour de France for you so far. Now you're back in the jersey of the world champion. Still a nice tour, even though the weather is not so nice.
Yeah, I mean it's good to be back in this jersey. Of course, I would like to have the yellow for a few more days, but I'm really pleased of what I've done, so it's okay.
Did you have some time to recuperate a little bit on the rest day?
Yeah, I tried to recover as much as could, of course, but yeah, because I was tired after the last stage, so I really needed a day off on the bed.
Do you think we're going to have a sprint today?
No, I think it's a breakaway.
Seberg looks over his shoulder. Andre Greipel is throwing his weight into this as well. Behind Seberg is Van den Dert. Then Greipel, and now moving around the outside of them goes Bernard Eisel, wants to take that premier position. Eisel, Renshaw looks over his shoulder to see where the rivals of Mark Cavendish are. Cavendish sitting behind the wheel at the moment of Greipel, who takes a very long look over his shoulder. They're all a bit worried about where people are at the moment. Rohath in the wheel of Cavendish. Cavendish right behind Greipel. Greipel begins to up the pace now, testing his legs, I think, with Cavendish behind him, then Rohath. Gilbert leaving it a little late on the sprint at the moment. He's behind Ventoso. Greipel wants to try and take... No, he hasn't got the speed, Gilbert, to stay with Greipel, and Greipel eased up. Sean, if you'd have not seen Philippe Gilbert there, I would have been inclined, as Andre Greipel, to keep going.
Well, I'm not sure what the tactic was there, because Greipel seemed to be just preparing the sprint for Philippe Gilbert, but you know, he takes it up and continues on. He should have just knocked off much further out and allowed the other sprinters there to be on the front a little bit too early, and in that situation then Philippe Gilbert could, you know, gain a couple of places from behind. But the way he was going for it here, it looked like he was going for to take the points himself.
14 seconds the gap. Still the breakaway men continue. Lars Boom! We wondered how long it would be. We said, Sean, he looks the freshest. He is a former world time trial champion under 23 level, and Boom fires the big gun. Off he goes. That's a good move. Who is going to go with him? He's just going to have to commit himself here and give it everything he possibly can as the peloton is just eating into that gap second by second by second. He's the one man, I think, from this escape group that everybody in the peloton would have feared could have done this.
Yes, and a good move at the moment, because the bunch is coming up very quickly. So get out of it with 4 kilometres to go. Give it your 100%, because if you have 1 or 2 riders sitting your wheel, well, then you're always worried about taking them to the sprint anyway. And when the bunch will catch the remainder of the breakaway, the 5 other riders, then there might be a little bit of confusion before they realise there's one still ahead.
3.5 kilometres to go. 15 seconds is the gap for Lars Boom. It's going to be very, very difficult for him to hang on, but this huge giant of a rider, a world cyclocross champion, a former cyclocross champion at senior, espoir and junior level. A man who's won the under 23 world time trial championships. He's been a Dutch road race champion as well. Now Grifko is the first man to be caught by Danilo Hondo, I think it is now, on the front for Lampre. And with just a handful of seconds, Urtuzan and everybody else. Delage gets the combativity award again today for Française du Jour, and Lars Boom with under 3 kilometres to hang on. Oh, they're almost in touching distance of him. 8 seconds only for Lars Boom, and he must be making a few of those riders in the peloton curse, Sean, having to track him down.
Well, certainly the ones are riding on the front end, the HTC riders, they're saying, we still have a one man out there, but it's not going to be enough, as we see 2.5 kilometres, a straight run in here as well. That is the difficult one for Lars Boom. If it was a bit more technical, then it would, knock the speed out of the front end of the bunch. But here, big road, long straights, they can see him out there. Unfortunately, that's going to happen for him.
Lars Boom gives up the ghost, and for the Dutch rider from Rabobank, a brave effort, but look at the work that's been put in the front by Eisel. He just says, I've had it, I'm cooked, I cannot do any more. Tony Martin takes over with 2 kilometres to go. Renshaw is behind, then Cavendish, then Ventoso. On the right-hand side of your screen, left-hand side of the road, David Miller setting up the sprint with Thor Hushovd behind and Tyler Farrer in his wheel. Tony Martin thinks, I'm going to get a bit of that. Thanks very much. We've done all the work. I'm getting in on there. Has to move over to the other side of the road. Renshaw is left with 1.7 kilometres to go. A little bit more than he would like. They're going to ride the coattails of Garmin Cervélo as Julian Dean comes in to take his formation. Marcel Zieberger still up here for Omega Pharma Lotto, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Andre Greipel is in there as well, although we can't see him behind the tall figure of Zieberg. Miller doing a fine job on the front for Garmin Cervélo. Geraint Thomas is here, Edvald Bosenhagen is behind him. The left-hand side of your screen, in the pink and the blue, just behind Edvald Bosenhagen now with a kilometre to go, is Alessandro Patacchi. Sky take up the pacemaking on the front. Thomas seems to have lost Bosenhagen. Bosenhagen is tucked in behind Andre Greipel now. Bosenhagen moves around the outside to try and get a better position on Mark Cavendish's wheel, as does Alessandro Patacchi. It's Thomas for Sky. On the front, it's Julian Dean for Garmin Cervélo. Zieberg looks over his shoulder to see where Greipel, the winner from yesterday, is. Thomas takes it up on the left-hand side of your screen. Just behind him is Mark Renshaw, followed by Mark Cavendish. Oh, Romain Fayot has managed to get himself in a good position, as always, without a train. Hushovd, a little bit pushed over to the right-hand side of your screen, as Renshaw opens up the big guns in the middle. Thomas backs off the pace. It's Renshaw leading out Cavendish, who goes now with Galimsey Cavendish who takes the win. Cavendish gets it. Greipel tried to ride on his wheel, but he didn't have the speed to come past him. I think Pharma may have got second. We were concentrating on the battle between Greipel and Cavendish there, but there was no real problem for Cavendish in the end. It is Greipel who gets second and Pharma gets third. Well, that was a textbook finish. In the end, it took a lot of effort from HTC to track it down, but look at the way that Mark Cavendish was able to just stay away. Greipel couldn't get out of his wheel. And that is a convincing win for Mark Cavendish. He knows it. Very good win.
Magnificent. And Renshaw once again, you know, ran out of power, ran out of men really within the HTC outfit, but Renshaw just on the coattails of Garmin Cervélo, and just sat there, and when the moment came to take it up, he just took it up so well for Cavendish, and it was just you know, so easy for Cavendish in the end.
Look at the way that Greipel had to do a lot of riding on the left-hand side of the road. Tried to get into the slipstream of Cavendish, but Cavendish sprinting for a long time there by himself and nobody able to match the pace. Watching back the replay, Mark Renshaw happy, Cavendish happy. That's Christy Scrimmager, the press officer. Mark Cavendish makes it into the green jersey by winning that.
That must feel particularly special after the disappointment yesterday.
No, it was. I said last night. Everyone's saying, "Yeah, you think you can, you know, win again tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, I will win tomorrow." You know, it's normally how I work when the guys ride all day like they did yesterday, and I don't finish the job. Then, you know, it's hard for me to take, and I'll normally go out and say do it again, and I'll make sure that I win this time. Technically yesterday, like I said yesterday, I spoke with Andre today, that was technically one of the best sprints I've ever seen, not just by him but by anyone. He rode it perfect. So I made a small mistake, and I was like, I'll make sure I don't make the same mistake today. So when I get the lead out, boom, I hit it. I'm not going to surge and hit it, I hit it. And you can see when I hit it, I get the gap, I get the acceleration. My most dangerous point is my acceleration, and if I do that, then I'll get a gap and hold it, and that's what I made sure I did today. The guys were phenomenal though. There was a group of 6 guys up the road, completely there. Some of the strongest guys in the peloton up the road. And we rode with 2 guys from the majority of the day, Lars back, Danny Pate, and then at the end we had to put TJ up there. We had to put Peter Velits up there, and we had to put Bernie up there to ride to bring it back. Some of the teams came up, but it shows, you know, we've got Peter Velits, we've got Tony Martin, both gone for GC, and they just give everything for it. They give everything to make sure we win here. It shows what an incredible group of guys I'm working with, and that's why it makes me so disappointed when I can't pay them back with a win like yesterday.
Thomas, we're now into the big mountains of the Pyrenees, but you're in the yellow jersey, and it will be Bastille Day. What can we expect from you?
Well, I expect that it will be a hard day tomorrow and long day. I hope the weather will be good compared to today. But to be honest, as I said before, I expect to lose the jersey. And I mean, I will fight, I will try, but I think tomorrow the jersey will change shoulder.
Mark, sensational job, especially after yesterday's stage when Andre Greipel got over the top of you guys, but fantastic job by yourself and, of course, Mark Cavendish.
Yeah, great ride by the team today. We committed this morning to a bunch sprint and we had to use all our resources. In the end there, we had Peter Velets pulling. He's, top 6 on GC here in the Tour de France, and you can see him pulling on the front with only 5k to go. So, great win for the team. I had to do some, I really had to work hard to get him up to the front there, and it worked out all right, so he had good legs as well.
Did you feel like you went a little bit early or a little bit too late?
Well, as a team, I think we went just a little too early, and so then, Colombia came by us and we had to slot back in, but the boys did a good job. So, that's how it goes sometimes. We got 2 more chances. I think we can get another one.
Johnny, do you feel as if it's a couple of days now, do you feel like the body's trying to repair itself? Is that costing you any energy, or are you feeling okay?
It's costing a lot of energy. It's already costing a lot of energy to recover from the race, and then, my wounds needs to heal. So, Bogut told me a few years ago, when you crash, your body needs to recover the same as of a race. So now it's double. Recover from a race and recover from the crash.
So what are you expecting now going into the Pyrenees?
My dream is to have the jersey again tomorrow, but if it's realistic, I don't know.
Wednesday was another wet one on the Tour de France, and the downpour in Laval wasn't the only rain that shows no sign of stopping. Mark Cavendish, who was beaten by Andre Greipel in Tuesday's finish, this time making no mistakes.
Cavendish goes on the right-hand side of your screen. It's Greipel. Greipel goes on the wheel of Cavendish. Has Cavendish gone too early? Can Greipel get out? I don't think so this time. It's Mark Cavendish who takes the win.
Cav not only reaffirming his status as king of the sprinters, but also riding himself into the green jersey. Today, though, he and the other fast men will be taking a back seat as the focus shifts once more on the Tour de France to the overall contenders. We're into the Pyrenees, and we're starting with a monster stage. 211 kilometres to Lousard-Didin, passing along the way the Tourmalet with its 17 kilometres of climbing. Among the steep slopes and vicious descents of this famous range, there is no hiding. For Cadel, Andy, Fränk and Alberto, the time to deliver has arrived.
Hoy el día de los Pyreneos es normal, el día de Euskaltel es el día de Samu Sanchez.
Hombre, no, hoy es un día del Tour, de todos los ciclistas. Yo creo que es importante, hay que estar atento, estar con los de adelante y bueno, ver cómo se desarrolla la etapa y por lo menos tener buenas sensaciones.
Hay un puerto nuevo, ¿no? Esto es el primero de hoy, que habla de un poquito de este puerto.
Hombre, es un puerto duro, estrecho, la bajada es peligrosa, pero bueno, yo creo que está lejos de meta y no va a tener tampoco gran trascendencia.
Y la afición de la gente vasca hoy sobre los Pyreneos va a ser increíble, ¿eh?
Hoy va a haber muchísima gente aficionada al ciclismo en general, no solo a nosotros, al equipo Euskaltel-Euskadi, sino a todo el ciclismo en general.
¿Y Samu hoy lo vamos a ver adelante, sí?
Hombre, esperemos estar con los mejores y tener un buen día. Gracias.
Un día especial, 14 de julio, un día especial para la Francia y también un día especial porque es un nuevo tour que empieza hoy, Alberto.
Bueno, pues sí, es un tour que empieza hoy, como quien dice, después de unos días increíbles de dureza, que en cuanto física como también mental, y luego también después de los traspiés de las caídas, ¿no? Pero bueno, en ese sentido la verdad que muy bien.
Y después el mito, la leyenda, el Tourmalet, el Lousard-Didin. De los dos, ¿dónde piensas que puede moverse algo?
Hombre, sin duda el Lousard-Didin. Tourmalet va a depender de cómo se suba, pero sin duda el Lousard-Didin.
Gilbert sitting second in the Omega Pharma train there. The Omega Pharma boys with white jerseys, blue and red striped vertically down the back. Gilbert in the Belgian national jersey. Greipel went very early last time. And taking Gilbert around the outside as the HTC train makes very, very good use of Movistar here. Now HTC take over. You can see Cavendish 1, 2, 3, 4 back in the green jersey with Gilbert on his right-hand shoulder. Hushovd is in his wheel. Cavendish gets into a good position. Gilbert losing out in the outright speed stakes here, as Hushovd gets into the wheel of Mark Cavendish. The lead out going for Cavendish, looks over the shoulder, does Renshaw, away goes Cavendish. And Hushovd, I think, taking the second in that, but the HTC riders keeping going, Sean, to try and rob as many points away from rivals as possible.
Yes, HTC and Movistar also, putting a man up there. We could see the Movistar rider just looking around to see where Philippe Gilbert was, and Gilbert, in the sprints, you can see there he's not the real sprinter, having difficulty just holding position and not, getting as much points as he would like to from that sprint there. But as you said, a lot of the teams here playing the tactic, the better sprinters keep them up there and take the points from Gilbert, because they know that he's becoming a real danger one, and he is capable of taking points in some of the medium mountain stages, and that's what they're concerned about.
Geraint Thomas and Jeremy Roy continue. They're on the climb proper now. 3 minutes, 13 seconds. They're at the bottom. This is the steepest section. This ramp here is about 7.9 up to 9%. And then it slackens off a little bit. And then again at 11 kilometers, as we go through the next village, it ramps up and very hard. Drops off a little bit, and we get to 7 kilometers to go. Another ramp. After that, it will suit a rider like Thomas a little bit more. He can lay down a bit more of the power. Massive crowds once again, and rightly congratulating these two men on being here first with 3 minutes and 6 seconds. That's not a bad gap to be starting with. You said 3 minutes, Sean. They've got 3:06. That is Samuel Sanchez. Look, you can see Samuel Sanchez at the front of the group now. He has a teammate with him, as does Philippe Gilbert. This is Vanendert, who's got across. Vanendert is just ahead of Gilbert. Gilbert has aspirations.
He certainly has, and he's been shown that all day. And on the descent, he did a magnificent descent, and of course the real good descenders, Samuel Sanchez also, coming down very quickly and taking an advantage on the other favourites to start the climb. And we can see it's Samuel Sanchez who was pushing it on, and on the front end of the big favourites here, we still have Jens really just upping the pace all the time.
Look at the way it's strung out here now. Jens is giving it absolutely everything. Voeckler in third wheel here. You could see Contador gripping the bars for dear life, trying to hang on to this pace on this slightly flatter section here. And the run it Claudin is still sitting at the back. Not far to go until it really hurts. Sandy Cassar is just ahead of him for Francis de Jeu. 12.5 kilometers for our leading men. 2:53 now is the gap. And strung out of the peloton, some of the really big favourites. Robert Gesink has already disappeared out of this group. And this is going to be a battle royal as they begin the climb. This little group here, the Gilbert Samuel Sanchez group, begin the climb of this last big test of the day. Luzardiden, Sanchez puts on the glasses. Vanendert with Gilbert here. Laurens ten Dam is in the break. There's a lot of hard work having to be done by Leopard Trek to try and keep everybody up here. Voeckler riding well. Kunago, your choice for today, Carlton, still sitting there about 8 or 9 back, just behind Alberto Contador.
Yeah, he's a very, very brave rider as well. And we saw him in the approach events as we started to come towards the Tour here. He really does have the strength. When he's in the mood, he can go. Claudin in trouble though here.
Yep, Andres Kloden dropping off the back. Samuel Sanchez taking up the pace in that mid-group. The group who are chasing down, trying to chase down Geraint Thomas. Kreuziger's gone. Roman Kreuziger has gone from this group. The pace being set too fierce by Samuel Sanchez. Van den Dert is just ahead of Philippe Gilbert here in this group. Christophe Riblon from AG2 Mondial in the yellow shoes. The blue, orange and white of Rabobank represented by Laurens ten Dam. And Jens Vogt doing a mighty job, but I'm not sure they're making too much impact on the riders. They've got about 25 seconds, I think, to the peloton at the moment, what's remaining of the peloton. 25 seconds may not sound a lot, but it's going to be difficult to shut down if they keep going at Samuel Sanchez's pace. Cadel Evans in the red in the middle of your shot there in the main group. Javier Zandio slipping off the back, having made up some ground before. That's Remy de Gregorio once again in trouble on this climb. Moncoutier. Another day for him today. Jérôme Coppel from Sogeson also in trouble at the bottom of this Luzardiden climb, and Roman Kreuziger giving up the ghost because he couldn't stay with the pace, Sean.
No, I think he paid for his efforts. You know, a long ride out there, first over Chavanel, then on his own, and that's the way it goes when you do you know, a lot of kilometres. You dig into your energy levels, and Kreuziger is paying the price. And it's the fresher men who are coming up now all the time. They are really, you know, pushing on the pace here. But about 25 seconds for this group out in front of Samuel Sanchez with Philippe Gilbert. But we can see the Leopard Trek and Jens Vogt really pushing on the pace here. A line of riders there, and the rear of the group just blown to pieces.
They're completely blown to pieces. Nicolas Roche riding alongside the yellow jersey of Thomas Voeckler. Great stuff by Roche. Kevin de Weert, the young rider from Quick-Step, still in here. Cassar fighting to stay within this group. Just ahead of him is rider Hushovd, hunched over the bars. 2 minutes and 9 seconds. It's it's hard work for these two. It's looking a bit precarious, I think. Brilliant crowds once again. All this year we've seen absolutely amazing crowds on big races. It was the same in the Giro d'Italia, first big mountain test of this year's Tour de France. And Carlton, just look at the crowds everywhere.
It's absolutely stunning. I always worry whether it actually puts them off or encourages them, but nothing more than encouragement at the moment, which is fantastic. The crowd's been reasonably well behaved. It's such a long run this that they're reasonably thinned out as well, so you know, not getting that compression at the moment, but let's just hope they don't have an undue influence as these gaps start to be absolutely crucial as we get into the hardest part of the climbing.
Van Bass on the left-hand side of your shot. That was Roman Kreuziger, not just dropping off the back, but legs falling off completely. Chris Anker Sorensen for Saxo back on the right-hand side. That I think we described him last year as a mother only a face only his mother could love. Chris Anker Sorensen. But there he is right up at the front. Richie Port, the Tasmanian Devil, takes on the pacemaking best young rider in the Giro d'Italia last year. And a little bit of order restored as Pierre Romain sits at the front for Europcar. He's done a good job today. Voeckler will be teeing himself up. He can see that the big favourites are behind him. He's going to try and hang on to that yellow jersey as much as possible as Kevin de Weert comes to the front to keep the pace higher again. De Weert, the Belgian. And Cassar, of course, managed to get back to that group. Roland has just got to keep the pace as he wants it, Sean.
Yes, and that's what we see him doing there. Just, you know, taking control in the front, setting a good, strong pace, not anything crazy, because they don't have to do that for the moment. And we could see Voeckler there. He seemed to be shouting at his teammates exactly what to do, and a little bit of more order here now. But again, there will be more attacks, I think, from some of the riders here. Still 10 kilometres to go. Unfortunately for our two leaders out in front, Jeremy Roy and Geraint Thomas, with the group group of Samuel Sanchez and Philippe Gilbert, they're eating into this advantage very quickly. Tendam also very impressive here, and it will be interesting to see, you know, what will the action be back with the more big favourites. Alberto Contador, the Schlecks, we see Basso there, Evans looking very comfortable there. Will they, some of them, go in the attack early? But it doesn't look like it for the moment. They seem to be happy enough just to play the waiting game.
Jelle Van den Dert and Samuel Sanchez up the road. It seems to be a free-for-all. It seems to be every man for himself in the Omega Pharma Lotto team, as the Olympic champion Samuel Sanchez just rides away from Philippe Gilbert here. Evans, Kühnegaard in this group. Chris Anker Sorensen calls back to the car to get some sort of maybe advice, but just telling them what the situation is. Could be a real grind of a climb, this one. All the riders will be on the 39 chain ring. All of them will be on their 23, 25. I know some riders are fitted with 26 here if they like to spin a lighter gear. We saw Philippe Gilbert spinning a bit of a lighter gear earlier on. And Andy Schleck looking over the shoulder with his brother Fränk just behind him. Right up the front for Vacansoleil. Is that Thomas de Gent? Looked an awful lot like him. I only saw a brief glimpse of him. But one of the Vacansoleil riders right up to the front as well. Taking the widest line around the hairpin if they can. You get a slight slingshot if you take a narrow line around it, but it's much steeper. Well, attack from the front of the peloton, and it is de Gent. I thought it was de Gent in that front group, and de Gent has now gone away. Another of the year's heroes for breakaways has managed to be climbing in this group, Sean.
Yes, and what a performance he's doing today, because you know, to be up there with this standard of riders, let's say, de Gent, you know, again confirming his Paris-Nice, because he was in magnificent shape there, but here really having a good day.
10 kilometers to go for the main bunch left on the road. 3 times a winner, Alberto Contador is in this group. Sylvester Schmidt climbing an awful lot better than he was in the Giro d'Italia. For Liquigas leads up Ivan Basso in that lime green on the left-hand side of your shot. Right in the middle in the emerald green is Pierre Rollin, still setting the pace for the yellow jersey, and team leader Thomas Voeckler just behind him. Nicholas Roach, the Irishman, in this group as well, climbing very well indeed. Levi Leipheimer in the middle of the group, the center of the group, has kept himself out of trouble so far today. Not so, unfortunately, for teammate Andreas Kloden, who has been tailed off the back of this group. One of the steeper ramps coming now, with 9 kilometers left, as Sylvester Schmidt begins to put on the hurt, and some of the big favorites getting out of the saddle to be there. Voeckler doing a good job to stay with them so far. Still not a massive attack going in, but we've seen so many riders going off the back, big names, Sean, that perhaps it's not even a big attack that's needed, it's just keeping riding at pace.
Yes, I think at this point everybody is starting to suffer, and if you can just get somebody right on the front and get a pretty fast pace, you can just put him out the rear door. If you can do it for a number of kilometers, and Sylvester Schmidt is the one who we've seen in the past can put a very strong pace for a long time, and I think we will see the results of this as we see Thomas Voeckler there down on the drops of the bars, out of the saddle a lot, but on the rear end, if we could get a shot of our group here, I think there's a lot of riders starting to lose contact.
Absolutely, this has been whittled down to about 15 riders now. They're going through the village of Grust, which sounds like the sort of noise that riders would make when Sylvester Schmidt goes on the attack. Jeremy Roy and Geraint Thomas have 1 minute and 16 seconds with still 9 kilometres to go, and it looks unfortunate for these two men that the big climbing stars are wheeling out to the arsenal now.
Yes, there's a lot of action back down the road, and we can see there, you know, the group of Van den Dert and Sanchez. We can see in the bunch here now, and we did see some moments ago that Basso, he spoke with Sylvester Smith, and then he takes it up, and I think Basso must be feeling okay, because there have to be a method in Smith's tactic, or he's riding on the front, because at this point, still with over 8 kilometres to go, Basso must be feeling good, and they're, you know, really setting a fast pace here at the moment.
Kevin de Veer to up the pace a little bit earlier on. Not too worried about him. He's 350 something down on the GC, but he's being reeled back in by the Polish super climber Sylvester Schmidt, working for Ivan Basso. And as you say, he must be feeling real good, Basso. This is up at the pointy end of things. Geraint Thomas and Jeremy Roy. It does slacken off once you get beyond about 6 kilometers into the climb, it does flatten out a little, which would probably play into the hands of riders like Roy and Thomas, because they can lay the power down a bit more. When it gets very steep, it's difficult for them. Philippe Gilbert on the left-hand side of your screen, beginning to suffer, I think, Sean. He's been turning a much lighter gear than some of the others. Ten Dam, for example, just plods away in a slightly biggish gear on a climb like this, and uses his lightweight for a big guy and those big pins as levers to keep him going. Sanchez and Van den Dert are almost on the wheel of our two leading riders today. Good riding by Samuel Sanchez. Will they get brought back, though? This is the thing. Only 47 seconds. It looks like the main group remaining on the road is going to make contact.
Yes, it looks very, very much the case, and not surprised when you see, you know, the pace being set back in the group of favourites. When Schmidt takes it up, we can see he is coming up to this group of Gilbert very quickly, and just goes by them at a real fast pace. And if Schmidt can keep on doing that, well, then I think it's not going to happen for our 4 leaders out in front at the moment.
I think they're almost back together as it happens. Sanchez and Van den Dert get across to Thomas and, well, there's 4 men now, but there's only a handful of seconds between them and Lawrence Ten Dam and Yuri Trofimov. Ten Dam continuing to try and push on. At the back, Rigoberto Urán of Sky, and Nicholas Roach as well. The pace beginning to tell. Crikey, it's been a really hard last 50 kilometres though, and Nicholas Roach is just going to have to hang in as much as he can.
With his teammate Dupont also in difficulty, so
and a good climber.
Yes, and if they can maybe just get it together there, but it looks like Dupont is a bit more difficulty than Nicholas Roach at the moment. We can see Roach really fighting here, and Schmidt just keeps on setting that terrible fast pace on the front end of the bunch.
Philippe Gilbert is caught, passed, and he's going to have to work very, very hard. The look of pain on his face when he was caught, thinking, you could almost see him going, crikey, this is a lot harder than I expected. Schmidt, Basso, then Voeckler, then Ten Dam, then Pierre Rolland, but still ahead is Van den Dert and Sanchez. They have dropped Jeremy Roy and Geraint Thomas. Samuel Sanchez, the Olympic road race champion, allowed a little bit of leeway. He's 5 minutes and 1 second down, but they all want this one now, Sean. They didn't worry about him too much when he went off up the road. They still want to take this victory there. Alberto Contador, number 1 on his back, following Andy Schleck. Following Cadel Evans, who are following Pierre Rolland and the yellow jersey of Thomas Voeckler. They're all up it. Gilbert distanced by about 10 bike lengths now. Rein Taramai is still in this group, still climbing really well. He's just behind Ten Dam. There you can see the red and white jersey of Coffin on the very bottom of your screen. And I think, isn't the Garmin Cervélo rider Tom Danielson still in here? Chris Anker Sorensen, who's done as much work as he can for Alberto Contador. He has dropped off the back of the pace. Schmidt is just destroying them bit by bit here, Sean.
Yes, he's just slowly putting a lot of riders in difficulty here, and you know, just putting him out the rear end of this group, and it's just getting smaller and smaller, this group. What have we got now? 15, 20 riders maximum, and just we can see there another rider on the rear losing 2 or 3 bike lengths, and Schmidt just continues on at that pace.
Basso right behind him. It's a sort of climb that would suit Basso, or does suit Basso. It's not full of massively steep ramps, 2 or 3 steeper ones at the start, Sean, but he likes to get into a rhythm, doesn't he? He doesn't like the really steep stuff. He likes to get, although he has one in very steep stuff, but he likes things to be at a constant pace.
Yes, and when he gets into his rhythm, the first kilometres, that's where sometimes we can see him in difficulty if it's a very steep gradient, but the section we're in now, it's the style of climb that Basso likes, and he has to be feeling pretty okay that he puts his teammate on the front, and you know, he's answering the questions. The beginning of this tour was saying Basso, he doesn't look to be good. A number of times he was getting caught out, and he's finding himself in the second tall group on the road, but today looking very impressive here, the way he's climbing and setting the pace with his teammate on the front.
Okay, let's run down who we can tell you is in this group straight away. Schmidt and Basso at the front. Contador is in the group, as you would have expected. Both the Schleck brothers are in there. Thomas Voeckler, of course, still with Pierre Rollin. Cadel Evans almost colliding with Pierre Rollin at that point. Tom Danielson, impressive climbing by Danielson. Damiano Cunego in this group for Lampre, the winner of the Giro back in 2004, as Jeremy Roy is finally tailed off from this group. Bye to him. I think Uran has managed to get back into the rear of this little group as Geraint Thomas is caught. Rein Termay is in the group. Kevin de Weert, Termay of Cofidis, of course, de Weert of Quick Step in this group as well. And Levi Leipheimer, Radio Shack in the middle of your shot, just ahead of Andy Schleck. Certainly Rigoberto Urán is in the group. I can see him at the back. Tendam, Lawrence Tendam of Rabobank, Yuri Trofimov of Katusha. Danielson looking good. And the rider from Francis de Jeux, who's still in the group as well, is Arnold Genessin. Genessin on the right-hand side of your shot now, as you see him. Steady pace, but I think it's slackened very slightly, Sean. Schmidt pacing Basso. Thomas Voeckler has done a marvellous job to stay with them at the moment, and Thomas bravely trying to fight to regain the rear of that group, but I don't think it's going to happen. They're going to ride away from him.
No, I think it's over for Geraint Thomas. He's put in a long effort today out there right from the earlier part of the stage, and he's paying the price now, which everybody else have from that original breakaway. Some have paid a lot earlier in the day, and that's the problem when you get out there and you get caught by the big favourites in the final time of the day. You're guaranteed to pay the price, and we can see here, Schmidt just keeping this pace setting on the front all the time. Maybe have knocked it off a little bit, because we can see that the riders are not losing contact on the rear, but still a long ways to go. So there could be a method in that, because still 6.2 kilometres to the finish here, and 55 seconds. So out front, they're doing a real good job. And Van den Dert is really impressive today to be up there.
Van den Dert up ahead with Samuel Sanchez. They're at 54 seconds of a gap at the moment. All the big favourites who are in this group here, they will have all seen, I think, what happened in the Giro d'Italia on Mount Etna. Maybe that is why they're keeping the pace at this level. If you keep the pace as high as you can, and Sylvester Schmidt on the front, then it gives less chances for Alberto Contador to unleash one of those stinging little attacks, Sean, that just ride people off the wheel.
Danielson is there. Yes, well, it's interesting to see who will go in the attack here of this group. we haven't seen Contador really to the front of this group. But is it a tactic? Just, you know, sit back, bluff it a bit, and play the waiting game. You know, it is very possible. Or is he in difficulty? And I think when you look at the Schlecks, you look at Evans, for example, and Contador, I think they have to try something. Somebody will definitely try and you know, put in an attack here just to test the other big favourites.
Great climbing by Arnaud Genessin from Francis de Jure. The French will be very happy with that today. You've got a Frenchman up at the front. This is Nicolas Roche being paced now by Christophe Riblon, and still with him is Hubert Dupont. Roche, who was climbing very, very well. It's the pace of that man in the front there, Sylvester Schmidt, who has caused the damage. Schmidt and Basso from Liquigas. Sounds like a firm of lawyers, doesn't it? Schmidt and Basso. There's Alberto Contador. Andy Schleck of Leopard Trek, looking over the shoulder to see where everybody is. Fränk is on the other side, if you're looking for him, Andy. There he is, in the Luxembourg champions jersey, ahead of Kevin de Weert of Quickstep. Well, he had a rubbish Giro d'Italia, Sean, Sylvester Schmidt, but he's back in form here.
Yes, he was really in poor shape in the beginning of the Giro. The final number of days, I think, in the Giro, he started to show a bit as well, and he is back big time here. And you know, it's working out well for him. And Basso is the other one who is, you know, looking comfortable for the moment. And it's really the next attack. If we see some of the big favourites going in the attack, then the reaction, that's where we will see who is really in contention to do a good Tour de France this year.
These two riders, Samuel Sanchez and Jelle van Endert, they've done a terrific job. They've pulled the gap out to 1 minute and 8 seconds with the summit at 5 kilometres to go. It would appear, unless, I mean, we don't know what this stinging attack is going to be, if there is going to be one from anybody, but it would appear these guys are doing a very good job looking towards a stage victory.
Yes, it's looking more and more likely for these two leaders now, because the gap out's over the minute, and if there's not an attack, you know, in the next kilometre or next 2 kilometres, then it's going to be too late to pull back the minute. I don't think we will see the favourites doing that. Although when Contador goes in the attack, sometimes if he's in real good shape, he can, you know, close down that minute very quickly. But it doesn't look like he's prepared to do it for the moment. Still sitting a long ways off. The two Schlecks just around Contador, sitting close to him all the time. So they have a bit of a marking game there between the two Schlecks and Contador. Certainly.
Thomas Voeckler riding with panache in the yellow jersey. When the big attack comes in, if it comes in, how will Voeckler be able to respond? He has a gap of 2 minutes and 26 seconds over Cadel Evans, enough to hang on to the yellow jersey today for sure. With 4.6 kilometres still to go. He's ridden very well today, Sean.
Yes.
It's been a hard day.
Yes, riding very well, and looks like that, you know, he's pretty comfortable for the moment. And we know Thomas Voeckler, he can just, you know, dig so deep, and when he gets a yellow jersey, the day that's in it today, of course, as well, he is going to be really up for it. And I feel that he's going to certainly hold on to the yellow jersey, and I think if we see some attacks, we could also see him reacting and following some of the bigger favourites if they go in the attack.
If he can, he will. There's no doubt about that. So you can always say that about Thomas Voeckler. If he can, he will. Sanchez and Van Endert are now 1 minute and 15 seconds up on this group. Kevin de Weert, mask of pain, spinning in light gear. And the two Schlecks just talking to each other. What do we do? What do we do? How are you feeling? I don't know what the conversation is, but they are capable of duffing over. Well, they've always been capable of duffing over Alberto Contador, and they've usually got it wrong. That's the big thing. Voeckler turning bigger gear than Ivan Basso. Combativity prize, no surprises there, goes to Geraint Thomas. He missed out on the top of the Tourmalet prize, 5,000 knicker in his back pocket, unfortunately, but he gets the combativity prize today. Samuel Sanchez is having to dig deep for this one. Very impressive by Jelle van Endert here, just keeping it going, keeping it going. Well, have Omega Pharma Lotto found themselves another climbing star apart from Jürgen van den Broek?
Well, certainly today he is a climber up here with this sort of talent, this sort of class. And
wait. And he puts the pressure on, and immediately Contador reacts. And this is where they all start looking at each other. Cadel looks over. What's going on? They have to respond, and just that little kick there, Sean, by Andy Schleck put about 5 bikes in. And here we go again, Fränk, Schleck. It's the 1-2. Fränk Schleck going up the road now. Who is going to respond to Fränk Schleck? He looks particularly calm. Ivan Basso it is who's ridden onto the wheel, and Contador has to respond to that. Gets onto the wheel of Ivan Basso. Instantly, it's Contador who is on the back foot, and the best form of defense is attack. We know that from Contador. He gets up to Fränk Schleck. Everybody's going to let him do it as well. The 3-time winner of this year of the Tour de France. At 4 kilometres, it's a weaving, bobbing cat and mouse game, Sean.
Yes, and Fränk looking around and see where Contador is, and a lot of cat and mouse being played here at the moment. As we see,
Leipheimer
yes, getting into difficulty, and this is the moment now that anybody was just about in there in that group. As we see Basso up on the pace here again, and he's the one maybe that they might allow to ride away, although Schleck reacts again, and there's not really a big attack going for the moment. They're just throwing little tests there to see who's going to react, but nobody putting in a real big attack. But I'm sure we will see that because it's all building up to that.
Yeah, it's all building up to it. They're in the last 3.5 kilometres to go. Brilliant riding by Pierre Rolland as Fränk Schleck attacks again. It forces onto the back foot once more Alberto Contador. This is going to wear him out. This is what they've got to do, Fränk Schleck and Andy Schleck. Why they haven't done it in the past, we don't know. There have been all sorts of situations. It hasn't just been Contador. It's been other riders as well that they could have taken apart with the 1-2, but they haven't done it. Now so it seems, Sean, as though they've got their act together. This is what they have to do. Always, always, always force Contador and the others to react.
Yes, well, you have to try and see what way Contador is going to react. And normally in the past, when you would go in the attack, Contador would come to your wheel and put an attack over the top immediately, but he's not doing it today. And I think the Schlecks are thinking maybe he's not as good as he normally is.
Back down the hill slightly. This is Jean-Christophe Perrault suffering. And there are all sorts of riders being dropped off the back of that leading group. There's Arain Taramai, the best young rider in this year's Tour de France now at the moment. The former Estonian national champion, Kim de Weert and Laurens ten Dam ahead of him. But remember, Geraint Thomas, the nearest rival on the day, is back down the hill. Great riding by Pierre Rolland. You wouldn't have expected this of him, Sean. Very good riding.
No, he's done a fabulous ride today, and very tactically very well, because when other riders want to take it up, he just sits back there and waits for the moment when it really slows down, and that's what's happened here. The big favourites are just looking at each other. The pace has really slowed down a lot, and this is when he's going to take it up and just keep working at it, and no concern for race leadership at the moment, and it looks like that is not going to be the case today as we get to this 2.7 kilometers. And Voeckler, looking very impressive also, because in the little attacks there that were thrown in by the Schlecks, Voeckler was very much in the action and always in the top 5 riders.
3 kilometers then separates this group of favourites in this year's Tour de France from the finish line at Luzardi, then the first big mountain stage. Pierre Rolland at the front, done a superb job. He's been there all day. as Rain Teramai gets distanced a little bit, but he's had a fine ride. Fränk goes again. And a little bit of an upping of pace by Pierre Rolland, sits back down in the saddle, and Contador not reacting to this one, Sean. Neither is Cadel Evans. Is anybody going to react to this one? Fränk, one of the really big names in this year's Tour de France. He's 2 minutes and 37 seconds down on the general classification, and everybody seems to be content to be able to sit behind the yellow jersey of Voeckler, as Fränk gets, 35, 40 bike lengths. He's going away now.
Yes, and I think a lot of the other favourites weren't a little bit into the red zone, and the little attacks they put in, they were able to react to those, but a bigger attack here from Fränk and not anybody reacting, and Fränk is just going to keep on working at it now and try and take time, and that's what the two Schlecks are going to do each occasion, every day in the mountains when they can take time from Contador. They're going to do it, and it tells me that Contador is not in his normal great climbing legs, because otherwise he would be in the wheel of Fränk at this moment.
Don't let Fränk get too much of an advantage on him. Remember, he still already has some advantage over Alberto Contador, about 1.5 minutes of an advantage. Contador standing up a lot here as we come towards the top for Jelle van den Endet and Samuel Sanchez.
And a lot of Basque supporters, as we can see here, they're just going crazy at the moment with a rider out in front, and possibly in a great position to go for the stage victory.
Fränk, the first of the really big, well-placed favourites to make inroads into Alberto Contador's time, and he really is trying hard at this one now. Van den Endet and Samuel Sanchez are up the road, and Pierre Rolland continues to set the pace. Thomas Voeckler in the yellow jersey. They've both ridden superbly today. Voeckler, we know when he gets that yellow jersey, it's going to all kick off, is it? Who's going to go around the outside? It is. It's Ivan Basso this time. He decides enough's enough, Sean. You've got to cut that down. That Fränk is too difficult a character to let go up the road.
Yes, and Basso, I think he's confirming that he was feeling good, because he put his teammate on the front very early on the climb, and I think he just played the game to see who was going to react to Fränk attack here. Nobody making the move, and Basso decides to go himself.
So decides to go, setting the pace under the 2 kilometre banner with Cadel Evans now, who takes over the pace setting in the front. He knows that Schleck is dangerous. This works well for Alberto Contador, also works well for Andy, of course.
Yes, and we can see Andy here sitting back very close to Contador at the moment, and the group really blown to pieces here. We have only 6-7 riders left in the leading group.
That's right, Danielson and Janassin being dropped off. Oh, well done, Thomas Voeckler in the yellow jersey, reacting. Good work by Pierre Rolland as much as he can. The yellow jersey of Voeckler rides up to the wheel of Ivan Basso and Cadel Evans now. Contador rides as well. Is there still time for an attack by Andy or from Contador even? 56 seconds separates the two men at the head, and it's Cadel Evans who's upping the pace here. Voeckler looks as though he's cooked. Bien cuit for Voeckler here, as that's a big dig by Cadel Evans. We've seen what shape he's in. He had a terrific win on Mur de Bretagne and pushed hard. And Rolland has dropped back to help the yellow jersey of Thomas Voeckler. In the high mountains, we knew he was going to suffer, but we've seen him do this before. Go on. And Evans is not going to get much help here from Basso, I don't think. He's going to have to do it himself, Sean, I think.
Yes, I think Basso is also pretty much on the limit, and all the riders here seem to be pretty much on the limit of their powers, and of course the attack put in by Cadel Evans there put a lot of riders really in difficulty, and anybody was just hanging there. We see Dominic Cunego also just losing 4 or 5 bike lengths. And we see Thomas Voeckler just, also in difficulty. But he has Pierre Rolland for the yellow jersey. It should not be a problem at all here today.
The yellow jersey of Thomas Voeckler continues to follow the emerald green of his teammate Pierre Rolland under the 1 kilometre to go banner. forcing the pace on is Cadel Evans. He would love somebody else to come through and do the work. He's doing the pace setting. Damiano Cunego has got back up to this group. Ivan Basso. Andy Schleck on his wheel. Schleck throwing a few glances at Basso. I think he realizes he's in good form. Contador should never be discounted. He's here, but I think you're right, Sean. I don't think he's in as top shape as he would like to be. And he's really having difficulty hanging at some point. Samuel Sanchez and Jelle van den Dert now discussing what they do here at the finish. But tell you what, Fränk Schleck isn't much far behind either.
No, Fränk Schleck is certainly eating into the advantage of the two out front, and we can see they're starting to look at each other here. Van den Dert looking there at Sanchez, and I think they're playing the little bit of cat and mouse game. As you can see, he's just about to pull them in here.
Fränk Schleck is riding up to the wheel of Samuel Sanchez and Jelle van den Dert. Now, have they got enough to attack? Van den Dert goes for the attack with Sanchez in the wheel. He almost got there. They left it to the very last minute. 500 meters to go. Schleck is more concerned about what's happening behind, but pushes on. He'd love to take the win, but the other two are going to try and deny him that. Jelle van den Dert doesn't want to give this one to the Olympic champion. The two of them had to put that extra dig in because Fränk Schleck was coming right up to the rear wheel. Schleck now beginning to suffer. I think Samuel Sanchez has the better finish on this. They've got the measure of Fränk Schleck. The question is, has Van den Dert got another kick to go? Samuel Sanchez starts to ride away. It's all over for Jelle. And the Olympic champion takes the first big mountain stage here. He's coming into the last corners, and they will love this to the Basque crowd. Those red, green and white flags are the Basque national flag, and the win goes to Samuel Sanchez ahead of Jelle van den Dert of Omega Pharma Lotto. The clock starts ticking. This is it, Fränk Schleck coming in at, we'd like to see him come over the line. We haven't got a time for him over the line. It would be best if we did. So Sanchez wins. Basso, Cadel Evans and Andy Schleck. And where is Alberto Contador? He's way off the back. That's a big gap. Alberto Contador confirming he's not in as good shape. Basso comes over the line first, and with Cadel Evans and Andy Schleck at 29 seconds, and Alberto Contador is going to cede another 14 seconds. Here comes the battling yellow jersey of Thomas Voeckler. Well done, 50 seconds for Voeckler. He keeps the yellow jersey. And that was a super ride once again by Voeckler. We've seen him do it 7 years ago. He's done it again today. And really this time has climbed with the real big men. Tom Danielson, a good ride by him at 1:04. Here comes Arnaud Genessin. Genessin is coming over. Fighting the bike to get there. Good ride, 1:18. Rigoberto Urán, who we said could be the Sky leader, at 1:24, along with Leipheimer at 1:24.